Hey everyone, welcome.
Hey.
Hey.
Oh, we got
Thank
all
you.
mixed up again. Let me
Yeah.
get back down.
Oh, that's
Oh, there
better.
we go.
There you go.
I was almost thinking about like pulling a Jeff and like coming out from underneath the desk. He did that in one episode.
Yeah, we coordinated on that.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. I remember that now. Yeah.
Yeah,
Good times.
that was fun. Good times on ZLS. 65 episodes already.
It's
It's
incredible.
crazy. Doesn't feel like
Yeah.
that much, but
That's a
Yeah.
lot.
yeah. Well, we had y'all on about a month ago. We were talking about design systems and had a good talk. Ben, I know you've been doing a lot of stuff on design systems recently for Narwhal.
I'm
You
excited
showed
to
me
hear
it
about that.
before. Yeah, maybe Ben, do you want to start talking about that just a little bit? I know you can't show us the code, but maybe you can just talk about the changes you had made.
Yeah, so I took a 180-degree turn because I was doing, Chelsea was creating, well, she has already created the whole design system and all the rules and the design tokens for everything. I was like integrating and transforming all the specification from the Figma file into SCSS variables and everything. And I was constantly updating the SAS files and the SCSS files and creating new components and everything. And at some point, I was like, I'm the only one doing that. And I was like, I keep having my CSS growing and growing and not that much for the components. And it's starting to get really unmaintainable because I'm the only one and I don't have time to do that properly. So what I did is I switched to Tailwind CSS, the utility first class CSS. So
Yes.
I can totally get rid of all the time consuming of thinking about the name of your class and basically writing any CSS or meaningful CSS rules into your components. So basically now the components have only templates and no CSS at all, or like very minimally, only for the host and the inline blog or something. But that's what I've been up to.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that I wasn't really fan of that, and I'm still not fan of utility first class CSS because I think, I think it kind of clutter your HTML files with all those with all those class names.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to learn all of those class names to actually do something before. So you spend a lot of time inside the documentation. But once you're familiar with few of the classes, it's always the same that keeps repeating. So you get a hand pretty quickly. But after using that for a while, I'm like, my productivity increased by at least 4.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's insane.
Why can you figure out why your productivity increased so much? Or
I'm not spending time on SAS file anymore.
Okay.
Like the only thing that I created, or the only thing that I really change into the Tailwind CSS configuration is adding the new custom class or variants, how they call them, with the rad colors for Narwhal and for NX and everything. Mm-hmm. And I do that in TypeScript. And then I'm generating those new colors in the library, and then that library is a JavaScript library that get consumed by the Webpack configuration for Tailwind, and I'm just consuming the arrays and objects that have already been created into the JavaScript library. So I'm writing CSS, or I'm setuping the CSS for Tailwind via JavaScript. And all my components have basically no CSS at all.
Yeah.
The thing I really like about utility first is that like I feel like everybody thinks that like when you're developing an application or like a series of applications, that you have like a lot of patterns that are like exactly the same. But then when you actually start developing things, like it's like there's tons of things that are like very similar. It's like 95% the same, but there's like, you know, all these little variations or like exceptions that you need to make. And that ends up being a huge headache when you're doing a more like traditional CSS thing.
Exactly.
Like you just end up adding a lot of like random classes and stuff to fill all those exceptions.
This is a real pain, because when you create your card has rounded corners, has an opacity on the background, and then another card which is exactly the same thing doesn't have that. So you need to make like a differentiation, or like, what do I do? Do I create a new component for that, or do I set the options for the developers to enable that? But then you have a card who just the top right corner are the right corner are rounded and not the others, and you're like, come on. So what I've seen is like by using the utility first class CSS, you just forget about all that. You don't care about all those things at all anymore, and you're only focusing on the component that you're creating right now, and you don't have a lot, or you don't have any component that are very basic, because you can create them on the fly. So for example, if you have a card with a title and a thumbnail, sometimes you will have the component card that is consuming the component thumbnail and that is consuming the component avatar for the right image and for the right dimensions and blah, blah, blah. But now you don't need those, because you already have some classes that you can apply depending on the context that will give you that. So you are not consuming those components, and you don't have to create those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the other thing that's nice about it, and that appeals to me a lot, is that like when you have those different like cards, like the one with the rounded corners, the one with the like not rounded corners and all that, like when you're doing a more traditional approach, like you have to come up with names for those, and like you don't always know what they're supposed, like what the intention is, right? You like somebody just gave you this design, or you got it, you got it from someplace, and you don't necessarily know like where it's going to be used in the future, but you kind of like apply a name anyway and just kind of like guess at it. But like if you're doing utility first, you're just like, this has rounded corners. That's all I'm going to say about it.
And this is so liberating. My God.
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh, this class name has to be semantic. It has to have meaning.
Yeah.
and who cares, really?
Yeah.
Nobody's gonna look into your code or into the source code of the web page and say, this is not semantic. I'm not gonna use that app. Right? Nobody's doing it. So this is only the intersect to the developer. Like you have to be cementing in your class naming conventions, but no one cares.
Yeah.
Well,
and this is you are really right, because Nicole, you really pinpoint the big thing for me that changed is that I don't care about the semantic anymore. Like before, I was caring a lot, but somehow I didn't know really why. And when I used the utility first class approach, I was like, okay, so that whole semantic thing is just like I don't know why I still follow that.
Yeah.
Well, like when I think of semantics, Ben, like what I think of is like good bone. Like thinking about the template, like thinking about the DOM, like bless you, by the way. Hope you're feeling okay. But like just like not always using divs when you should be using like buttons or links or something like that instead. But you're talking about the class names here, right? Is that, or am I missing?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's a different kind of semantics. Of course, you still need to use your H1, H2, or whatever your button when it has meanings. But we are just focusing on name of the class names. You always create your container and you name it container or wrapper or whatever, and
one of 5 different things.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes it's just to have a display block and a margin of 2 pixels, and that's all.
Yeah. You're kind of like inventing like your own little language. And then anytime somebody comes in and has to get used to like developing in that application. I mean, this is very relevant to like the discussion of design systems, right? Because like in a design system, you're also developing a language of some sort. But it's easier if you can like take some of that out and just say like, this describes exactly what it is. And you don't have like such a ramp up period to understanding like where meaning is assigned to each class name or selector.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
And this is what is so liberating when you're using that.
Yeah.
But you really have to shift mentality because this is so against what you may used to do.
Yeah.
So you have to take a leap of faith.
So I feel like where I used to do, and just to make sure I'm on the same page, is like I'd have some element or some element in my DOM that I wanted to style specifically, and I'd give it a class name. But really, the class name I felt like most of the time was like an ID, like it just for identifying that element specifically, and then like putting some extra stuff, some extra styles onto that.
Yeah, it's just like a selector, like a selector for one individual element.
Yeah. Or maybe like some set of them, but they would always be the same. It wasn't like I was creating a class the way I would think of a class of things. Like I would think of a class the way I think of utility classes, like rounded corner. That if I attach this class to something, then it'll always have a rounded corner, like regardless of what it is. But this would be more like name input or something like that. Like this is a name input, and so I want all my name inputs to have, I don't know, a different color background or something like that. So yeah, so the mind shift is just going from that where you're creating your own name and then defining it inside of the CSS for your component, and instead you're using utility classes to build it piecemeal right there in the HTML, pretty much.
Yeah, it shifts the responsibility of like defining all the styles to the template, which is something that, I think a lot of people have trouble sort of like trouble coming to terms with when they haven't used utility first.
Yeah, makes sense.
It needs to click at some point. Yeah, I know it clicked for me when I get used to it. Yeah, I still see that it's like, you're a little worried that the template will go out of hand, but usually it's also for the maintaining your code, because I had that fear that if I use the utility first class CSS, it will not be maintainable. But it's exactly the same thing when you're using CSS, because when you're touching your template, you have to touch then your CSS. And how many times do you do that? How many times do you change a rule of CSS? No, it never happens. You just throw away the complete component.
I always think about that, because like when we talk about CSS, like the classic example that people use of like why CSS is like the best for styling things is like, okay, so like say you have a bunch of like rounded corners on all your buttons, and then one day you want to like go in and like make all the buttons have no rounded corners. You can do that so easily because you just change it in this one place and it like propagates to like all your buttons. I have never once in my career, never once have I done that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like every time you are at a point where you're making that kind of style change, like you're probably reworking a lot more than just like this superficial change.
Yeah.
Oh,
But
and
the nature of the cascade too, in terms of like the things, a more specific thing is going to override it, right? So that's not necessarily true if something down below it is making it a different border radius or something like that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So sorry to interrupt you, Ben. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna bring in the Zen Garden website. Do you all know it? Like, this is the perfect example of the website is so you have one website with a one layout, and then you can switch the style sheets, so you can see the same markup but styled completely differently with a different layout.
Yeah. Nicole, are you bringing it up? Do you want to share? Do you want to share the screen?
Okay.
Wait, I don't know. I don't know if I brought it up. I brought up a website called CSS Zen Garden.
Yeah, that's probably
Is that what it is?
Yeah. Or maybe I can find it.
Yeah. Let's take a look.
Yeah, I think somebody else should bring it up. I don't know what I'm looking at here. Oh, wait.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah. Okay, this is the right website. I can bring it up.
Okay. Cool.
I don't have the right one here.
Let's see.
You see it?
Yeah, there we go.
Okay. So, because I was looking at this and I was like, this is just a blog. But I guess that like the idea is that like you change out the style sheet, and it completely changes the site. So this is the same template.
Yeah, this is the site. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So this is the same markup but styled differently.
That's so cool.
Yeah, this is cool, but you're never gonna do that.
No, you're never gonna do that. It's like the like CSS like portraits that people like do amazing like CSS portraits. Like it's not practical. It's just like for awesomeness, like just to like be in awe of like what you can do and to like push the limits, right?
Yeah, I love this is a technical achievement, but you're never gonna change your application that drastically.
Yeah. And if you did, it would be in big enough of an effort that it would like it would legitimize reworking some of your code to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I have to admit, I don't know how common this is, but like I just love completely tearing something down to the studs and reworking it. Like it's really satisfying, like having something in place and then like, you know, like quickly like putting it back together and just being like, wow, I made this so much better this time.
Nice.
Yeah. So this one is pretty crazy, but
yeah.
So that you never do it for your application. So
that's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, that's nuts.
Oh, this is like not. It doesn't stay in one place. Wait a minute.
That's not it.
That was just an ad.
They got us.
Me.
They got us on their live stream. Oh no.
Nope, that one's gone.
Nope. Well, so Ben, I wanted to latch on more to what you said about making you more productive.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think there's? I feel like for myself, a lot of times when I use CSS, I'm really battling CSS because either my understanding of the cascade and what each rule does it's maybe not complete or something like that, or maybe I'm just poor at CSS. I'm wondering, does the utility a utility CSS system, does that work better than CSS sometimes? Like, does that contribute to their productivity, or was that not a factor really?
Yes and no. Yes, in the sense of I'm not writing any CSS, and it's only those classes are shortcuts, and the way that they are created, you can compose them. And for example, you can blindly use multiple classes and they will play nicely together, even though you for example, you're using a grid, and so you're using the class grid, and maybe for smaller resolution, you just want a display inline block, for example.
Right.
And the equivalent of that would be the class inline or something. Yeah. So for example, you will write your code for just inline, and then for the multiple, for a bigger resolution, you will have like MD or LG or XL colon grid. And if you have to do that in CSS, you're done for 10 lines, basically. And you have to create media queries, and you have to be sure that, oh, yeah, but the display block doesn't affect the display grid. So the grid system needs to have its own specification or characteristics. And the inline block is just something that it can live on its own. So you have to know what you're dealing with. When you're using the utility first class, it's like all those goes away, and you're only using the classes. So it's kind of bringing back the power to the developer. But at the same time, I'm going to say no, because even though you have those shortcuts and it's easier to use, you have to know behind what it's doing, because you can have some clinky behavior, and you need to read the talk, basically, because sometimes you will have conflicting classes.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Yeah, I'm I don't know. It seems like something like CSS is kind of ripe to have some layer of extraction put on top. So that's why I was curious. Like, does your utility class system essentially become an abstraction on top? And I guess kind of does, but it's more without any guardrails, right?
Yeah,
because you can override stuff, not unlike CSS, right?
I would say this is another way to produce CSS, but
yeah, I wouldn't describe it as an abstraction. It's just like a different approach, I think. I think you can. I mean, like, the React community is a lot more innovative in terms of styles and like approaches to styling than I think we typically see in the Angular community. Hey, yay, Caitlin.
Hey, Caitlin.
So like, I think some of the strategies there, like style components and that kind of thing, are like more what you would describe as like an abstraction. Yeah. How are you? Are you still working on like the game?
I am. I haven't been doing it on stream though. So
really?
I've still been messing around with it though.
Okay. Because I was curious if you decided on like a approach to styles in that game.
No, not really. I started focusing more on the stuff going on in like the canvas. So I brought in Phaser as a game engine to play around with that stuff. So I have a host of other problems now trying to understand like, kind of what the game is and stuff, but it's not really CSS related. but yeah, that's been fun. It's been a fun side project for me to work on. But yeah.
Oh, I want to see like the progress on it.
Yeah, I had some tweets up a while back that showed like some stuff. It's kind of fun. I feel like I'm trying to build a system where I can kind of just define with data like how a move should work. So you have your different units, and they're going to move to each other and attack each other, but sometimes they're shooting at each other instead, or sometimes they're doing stuff like that, and just like defining that as some array of data points. And okay, first move over here, then attack, then move back, or something like that. So
yeah,
it's kind of fun. But
I think game development in like applications is actually pretty fun. I mean, I don't really have any like game, like programming game experience, but like, except for like doing some in, I made like an application. I just did it in Angular, but it was like it was this like really stupid game where you like, this is really weird. It's a game where like you have a bunch of animals and they're like dancing, and you like kind of piece them together. So they have like a bunch of body parts, and you like kind of piece them together so that they're like dancing. Like
I know.
They're like kind of like Frankenstein like animals that are just like dancing around. And it was just kind of fun. I had the same experience where I was just like, I guess it was like a couple of years after I started working with Angular, and I was just like, this is like a really fun take on my like normal, just like putting forms together and kind of, you know what I mean? Like doing a bunch of like administrative like forms and stuff.
It's fun to have some creative stuff to work on for sure. What were you using to build it, Nicole? Was it in JavaScript still, or were you using like
No. I was just using Angular.
Okay.
I think I would probably, if I were gonna do something like that again, I would probably switch to like C# or something like that, or like at least using like some kind of game engine, because I wasn't using anything.
Oh wow! Were you messing with a canvas or just with like?
No, I was just placing everything with CSS. The performance was terrible. I would have needed to like definitely switch at some point, but I was just positioning everything with CSS.
Interesting. Ooh. And like animating
by hand, everything by hand.
Oh wow!
Yeah, with like CSS animations, just making sprites and stuff.
Wow.
It's not an approach that I would recommend. It's just something I did one time.
Yeah. I mean, when I got into the RPG game, one of the thoughts was like, well, really, all they're doing is like different kind of animations, like going back and forth. For the most part, they should just be like idling there. Maybe I could do this all in CSS. And I started going into like looking at what that might entail, and like it just felt like systematizing those animations to get it to where I like the thing I was describing, where you just describe some data and like send it out, and like the engine will take care of it. Try to do that all in CSS. I would not even know where to start, honestly. Like maybe applying different classes and like trying to take them off right at the right point in the animation so that it would stop. Is that kind of what you had to do with the dancing thing, or how did that?
I mean, basically I was just creating sprites and like, they applying. I don't think I got like so far as to like represent much state in like the animations themselves. It was just like kind of the only animation that was needed was like or like the only positioning and like styling that was needed is like putting the images together and then having them loop. So it was really easy.
Interesting. Yeah. Cool.
But if I were like doing something where like you get hit by like a character gets hit and then they react to that, that's a little more difficult.
Yeah.
I still want to play it again.
I'll try and dig it up.
Nice. You need to put it online so we can all play it.
Okay.
That'd be cool. But yeah, I want to latch on to something else you had said earlier too, Ben, which is just kind of like kicking this around while we were talking. Like go back to the card, right? With the rounded corners, but every now and then, maybe if it's in a collection of 4, we want like the middle ones to not be rounded, or something like that. If it's grouped a certain way, you don't want the edges to be rounded. It's just thinking about that. Like, I'm not sure. Like to me, I think of having that card being like some component at some level, right? And I don't see. Maybe I'm missing it, but I think in terms of that component, it would still feel like a component that had some option on it to like change what that, like which corners were pointed and which ones weren't. Like it's just like it would then translate really easily to utility classes after I got those inputs. But yeah, does that make sense? Or
Yeah, it does make sense.
Yeah.
But this is always the tricky line of what do you put inside your component? Like, do you want your component to be aware of its borders or not? Because maybe it's the responsibility of the container component that will choose which one has the rounded border, depending on a list or the position on the list.
Right.
Maybe your component doesn't want to know if it has borders or if it has rounded borders. So yeah, you could pass that into your component has an option, but that would make it aware of the fact that it has borders, or you delegate that to its container, and it's doing the
right.
The rounded borders where it needs to be done.
Gotcha. Well, wait, so it seems to me like the alternative to having that as some input would be just to have different copies of that component where the borders not. Or are you talking about just like creating the
moving
component
that information to the outside?
Yeah,
I mean, yeah. If the container was like, if the container was responsible for it, then it would be defined on the outside.
Gotcha.
Like maybe there is a simpler example. When you have your whatever component that you're using, you want sometimes to have a header, and that the header has a title, and the title needs to be that specific size with that specific line height and everything. Okay, and sometimes you want to also by default, the color will be black or gray or whatever. But sometimes what you want to do is you don't want that component to be, or that title to be aware of the font that it is using and the color that it is using. Why? Because you want to handle those characteristics at a global level for all your applications. So maybe on your body, on your HTML, you will set the default color for all your links and all your default font and default color for the font. And all your component will not have those specifications, so they will inherit from your global configuration. And that will enable you to having multiple theme, like a night, a dark theme, a light theme, or having your container component that will say, we change font here because you're showing some code, so the font is not Arial, it's console.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I hope.
Yeah. Well, so you have like those websites. This is something I'm kind of curious that I've always been curious about that you've kind of brought up. Like when you see like the light mode and dark mode, like I imagine that's just switching out like CSS, right? Like kind of like we were seeing on the
so much way to do it.
What's that?
There is so much way to do it.
Is there conventions though? Is it usually done way X? Like I remember when so I bought the Epic React course, and I remember they have the light and dark mode on that. But when you click it from dark to light mode, it actually changes like the image, the images they use inside of the site as well. I was kind of like, oh, that's interesting. It's because like some of the images wouldn't make sense against a light background. Like there were stars against a transparent background and darkness. But
that can be done with CSS.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. define a background image.
Oh, I see. I see.
Or you could create a negative filter, but that would be weird.
Yeah, that would be intense.
Yeah,
But-
I just learned about that trick that you can like do a filter, like you can change. You can just do like a filter on like a container on a website. It'll just completely change all the colors. Have you seen this?
I've seen it for
would-
the sepia thing.
This sounds like the way to do dark and light mode now, though.
Yeah, it's kind of awesome. Let me show you.
Yeah.
Let me look at the thing first.
In the meantime, I think if you go to the Angular material theme,
Yeah.
I think the way they change the colors or the theme of the application is by loading a completely different style sheet.
Mm.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah. That's intense.
Okay. What website do we want to do?
For the sepia filter thing, or for the
Inverse filter? We can do this website.
let's do it.
Okay. So you can do this to any website, which is kind of cool. You just like go to the body and filter invert one,
What?
and it'll give you dark mode.
Dark mode.
Except this seems kind of broken. There must be some kind of like other weird thing happening here. So it doesn't work perfectly, but you know, we can show you like evil narwhal.io.
Oh, can you do it for NX.dev also? Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So let's do this one first. Oh, it didn't do anything. What?
our website.
I was like, this works every time.
Hold on. Yeah, because maybe it's only on the. Are you doing it on the body?
A body, yeah.
Hey, there's you and me, Nicole. Nice.
Oh, because it's body and HTML, so it's going to.
Ah!
Oh yeah.
You look pretty cool there.
So how about we switch to this color scheme? What do you think?
Oh, I like that
nice...
React stuff. Look at that Angular at times React.
Yeah.
Looking good up there.
This is amazing.
Yeah, everyone looks kind of scary and X-rayed.
Oh,
Yeah.
go to the careers page.
Okay.
Make a difference. It seems so much more ominous now.
Make a difference.
Like it's ready for Halloween.
Yeah.
I think that fact that this looks so evil just makes me realize that our color scheme is very friendly.
Yeah. Jason.
Yeah. Okay. NX.dev.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Oh no.
Okay. So let's just do.
Should be interesting with the wave.
Oh.
That's true.
Yeah, I guess this is like tan color
Yeah.
and that nice green.
It's NX on the beach.
Yeah. NX on the beach. I love that. Oh my gosh. It looks really Halloween-y.
Yeah.
NX.dev. It looks like a
Nice.
stormy night.
Is it working also for the video?
Yeah, it is. Wait.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That's intense.
Whoa. That's crazy. Yeah. So, I mean,
Okay, everyone who's doing dark mode, just throw out whatever you were gonna do.
yeah, you don't have much control over like there's like no variation, but actually, I guess
Screw dark.
Surprise.
you
Mega
could
truck.
look for. You could just like apply this and then just like have another small style sheet. Like if you wanted to like make this like blue or something like that, then you make it red when you switch it. Oh my gosh, that would get so complicated. Yeah. Oh, they look so cool. Anyway, that's the one neat trick. Change your website's theme with this one neat trick.
That's perfect clickbait right there.
Yeah.
But yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I'm still intrigued. I definitely want to get into. I need to get into Tailwind and just try it out for a little bit.
Yeah, you should try it.
Yeah, it seems like the biggest thing is what Ben had said about you getting 4 times more productive, which sounds great.
Oh,
So,
you're like a productivity chaser.
Not maybe.
Watch all your videos at 2 times speed.
I do actually. I everyone but Victor. I hear Victor. I have to turn it down to like 1.5. But
okay.
Otherwise,
still, this is an increase. You're not listening at 1. You're listening at 1.5.
Yeah.
Because
so
Victor is talking pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Well, so it's interesting because like when I'll listen. Sometimes I'll listen at 1 times, and that's when I really want to think things through. Because otherwise, if I listen to something really interesting at 2 times speed, I feel like afterwards I have to go for a walk, or else I like can't process it all. It's like there's all this stuff going in my brain, and I have to like
really?
let it settle down so I can like keep thinking normally.
Do you do other things when you're listening, or?
Sometimes, yeah. Oftentimes, if I have work that I don't have to be super focused on, I'll often have like a podcast or something on in the background that I'm kind of like half listening to.
Yeah.
So when I'm focused on like a talk, for example, I'll definitely have it on 2 times speed. But like I said, if it was interesting, I'll have to go for a walk afterwards to like kind of think it all through.
Huh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I usually find that like when I'm listening to a podcast, I have to be like doing something like walking or something like that. I can't be like coding or trying to answer emails, or I have to focus on like one thing at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of like that too.
Yeah. Like Nicole or like me?
Nicole.
Okay. Well, I guess I'm the weird one then. But yeah, I've been trying to get to like books on tape too. Books on tape, I have a harder time engaging in them. There's something about conversations to me that's super interesting, though. That's why I've been gravitating towards podcasts lately.
Podcasts, that makes sense.
So
yeah,
like
I listen to a lot of books on tape, actually.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I just got an Audible subscription, so I'm trying it, but it's hard.
I wanted to try that too, but I don't know.
Books on tape.
Audible. Yeah.
Audible. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying it. We'll see what happens. Do you listen to a lot of books on tape, Nicole?
Yeah, I have an Audible subscription, and I used to listen to some nonfiction or like sort of personal development like books on Audible, but I find that usually those kinds of things, like I like to have them in like a physical copy so that I can like refer back to them, or like just being able to kind of review the information, because sometimes it's hard to get everything that I need out of it if it's just like on a podcast or something like that, because I usually like go out and then I can't really make notes or anything like that. So I listen to fiction.
But when you have when you have the physical copy, are you still using the Audible?
No.
To follow through?
No, I just do one or the other.
I find myself wanting that sometimes, Ben. Actually, like with the book I've been reading through, I've been like listening, and I'm like, oh, I wish I could like follow along with words. So
I did that for for a few books, and it really helps me, having those thoughts and the way, all the English words and the way that they're pronounced, sunk in, and it really helps me.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, when I listen to stuff on 2x speed, I absolutely turn on the captions too. Like when I'm focused on something, and that helps a lot in terms of like helping my brain process things too, I think. So I feel like if I was trying to learn a new language, that would be a really interesting way of trying to learn too. It's just like hear people and read through it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if you try to learn a new language, you won't doing the 2x speed. You will do the normal one.
Yeah, like,
what does this word mean again?
I know. Sometimes I need to do like 0.4 time, 0.1 times speed, depending on the language. Like I was trying to learn Japanese last year, and I found that once I got past the basics and we were just like doing phrases or sentences, I had to slow down so much. Like every time I heard a new phrase, I had to like slow it down a lot so that I could just hear all the syllables. And I think generally I've had that experience whenever I'm learning like a non-romantic language, or like anything that doesn't have like a Roman alphabet. Do
you speak a lot of languages, Nicole?
No, I don't, but I love learning languages.
Okay.
I'm just terrible with them. I know some Thai.
Okay.
And I was learning Japanese last year, but I've also spent time trying to learn like German and Spanish. I know like conversational Spanish.
Cool.
But yeah, languages tend to like fall out of my brain pretty easily. But I still think it's fun to learn them.
Yeah. As someone who only speaks English, I mean, I guess I know a little French, enough to maybe get by if someone dropped me off in France. I'd be able to find the library. But yeah, and most of it I've lost. My mom was a native French speaker growing up, and she's lost most of it too. So yeah, and she grew up in France for like her school years. So like was using it every day and all that. And it's very weird to think of. I mean, I don't really understand because I've only ever done English, but to think of something that was that close to you for that long and to lose it. Like when she's around her family, who's still in France, she gains it back pretty quickly. But it's like at the start, it's like there's a lot of rust there or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's really interesting to think about, though, like the way our brains work.
Yeah. I mean, so much of your experience is shaped by language.
I think in language, I feel like I think in English.
Yeah. But the thing, it's kind of surprising when you learn another language. And I think this is like the part that I love the most about learning something new, is that like it gives you a lot of context for the language that you normally speak. So you like encounter all kinds of patterns that you normally wouldn't in your native language. And then you're like, oh, I didn't even like think about how that was the thing. Like even like sentence structure, you don't think about until, like after you get past your like when you're a kid. I think that's the most interesting part.
Yeah. I love diagramming sentences as a kid, by the way. That was like the one thing I enjoyed about language class was diagramming sentences. What were you going to say, Ben?
Yeah, I was going to say the perception of time is really different between languages. And
what do you mean?
Well, depending on the language, so this is something that I heard in a documentary or something, like because there is not much difference in time consumption or time context when you're in French and when you speak French and when you speak English or even Spanish. But the relation to time is really anchored into the culture of the people who will speak the language, and sometimes they have a completely different perception of time because the words that they use are not translatable into another language.
Yeah.
So I know that the Russian, the Russian language has a notion of time different than any other language, and I know that languages for the East, Asia, and everything, they have also a different culture and different relation to time that we Western we have a different one.
Yeah. Wow, that's really interesting.
And it's to the point where you can't express it in another language because there's no words for it in the other language.
Yeah. Like I know that a German, like I know a German person that was able to speak German, French, and English, and the relation of time between those three languages was slightly different. So you could have a nuance. You could nuance it very deeply into, okay, so I'm going to use a German word for that, or I'm going to use a French word for that, or an English word for that, because there is no parity.
Yeah. Yeah, that's super interesting.
That's super profound.
Yeah. I want to know what these words are now so I can try to understand them. But yeah, it's super interesting. Hey, we've got less than 10 minutes left. Do y'all want to get into picks?
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. So my pick is Googling for election results. What's going on?
So relevant.
I know. I don't know if that counts as a pick or not, but I've been doing that a lot the last couple of days.
Yeah.
Cheering on Georgia. Georgia's real close. Oh wow, that's changed. They're less than 4,000 votes difference between Trump and Biden right now.
Oh my gosh.
In Georgia. So
wow.
Just watching. Nevada still hasn't moved. I've seen some interesting memes from my wife. She sent me on Facebook, like pictures of, it's like shows Nevada on the day on election day, and it's like someone waking up, getting out of bed, like counting it all. I thought that was funny. But yeah, that's all I've got really. Who wants to go next? Nicole, you want to go?
Sure. So mine's not related to, it's just something I've been watching on TV. I think a lot of people have been watching it actually. It's called The Queen's Gambit. And it's a really, really good Netflix show.
Is it a chess movie?
It is. It's a chess series. So I think it's just a short series. Like, I don't think they're going to be continuing it. I could be wrong about that though. No, I just finished it. I think that they're probably not going to continue on a second season.
Okay. Is it like actually about chess, or is it like a narrative?
It's about a chess player. Yeah, it follows a woman who just got really, really good at chess and like talks about her journey. But it's very it's a really interesting story. Yeah, you should watch it. It's on Netflix.
Very cool. Yeah, I remember Matt was big into chess, formerly at Narwhal. So I will check that out.
I didn't know that he was into chess.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I want to learn to play, but it seems like a pretty big investment.
Oh, no, I getting good at chess, I feel like is really, really hard. I've never been able to crack that. Me and my dad used to play a lot. And that was fun. But I felt like I was good, and then I played someone who was really good, and I was like, okay, I can't.
You have to like memorize a lot of moves.
Yeah, right? you gotta like learn the strategies and all that. And I was just thinking, maybe 2 steps ahead. If he does this, I'm going to do this and this and this. Okay,
that's pretty cool.
Well, I mean,
that's good.
I don't think it was that sophisticated. It was just, I don't know, maybe be able to guess what someone else is doing was all I was doing. But to understand like the whole, like getting to the point where you understand gambits and stuff like that, it's like blah. Yeah. I don't have the time for that. But yeah. Ben,
there are people that we're just gonna say there are people that can play chess without the chessboard. they
Yeah.
just say, "Oh, E2 in the
Oh,
tower."
Yeah, I remember actually when I would play with my friends sometime in high school. And we would actually, the way we would play, since we didn't always have a chessboard, we'd use a sheet of paper and pencils, and we'd draw on the little piece of paper, and like that would maintain the state of the board. And then
wow.
we'd that way you could like play a game in one class, and then we'd not have the class together, and then 2 classes later we'd be together again, and we could like play just by passing back and forth the piece of paper. It was really easy to cheat that way too. I think with one friend we had to. I didn't trust him, so we always made someone else hold the board while we were between turns. But yeah.
What's your
Yeah,
pick, Ben?
Yeah, so my pick, it's actually a YouTube channel that I discovered a few minutes before the podcast.
Not while we were live.
Before. And
You watch something while we're supposed to be live, Ben.
This is No. This is a YouTube from Sean Doran, and if you go to the videos, he just put high quality 4K video of the planet Earth, and
Oh wow.
Basically all the views that you can, the live views that you can see from the ISS, but also from multiple satellites that are in orbit, and also the ones that orbit the sun and other planets. So this is really, really cool because it's using the real pictures from the satellites and animate them, and in 4K. So this is pretty
8K
good.
in some of them.
8K, yeah.
Wow, that is so cool.
Who has monitors that could show 8K though? That's what I'm.
Well, not
That's
me,
what I'm trying to figure out.
but hook up to a TV or something like that.
Yeah, hook up to my neighbor's TV maybe, and then I'll.
Yeah, yeah,
Still very cool.
yeah. That's awesome. I'm gonna watch.
And I feel like you have all this interesting stuff. I need to understand.
I know.
Better.
Where do you get all your information?
Sorry, what?
Where do you like get all these like
Where
cool
you get
things?
this?
Ben, tell me.
I don't know. I just find
Well,
stuff.
I know you're like super like SpaceX and NASA and that kind of stuff, right?
I spend a lot of time on NASA and the APIs of NASA.
Oh, cool.
Just
The APIs.
they have public
What do they
APIs,
have? What are they
and you
exposing
can
on their APIs?
what?
What are they exposing on their APIs? Like, what kind of stuff do they have?
Practically everything. You could retrace, all the path that all the rovers on Mars took, like frame by frame, basically.
That's so cool.
You can have all the GPS, well, not the GPS, but all the coordinates of all the rovers, and you can have all the maps of Mars, the moon. You have a massive amount of data on all the data, atmospheric or pictures or sonar or whatever on the planet Earth. This is really, really, really interesting. But this is really, really time consuming. So if you start on that, you're gonna spend the whole day or your whole night on, this is amazing. And you see raw photo, raw footage, and then that those footage that you see right now, they are used by many teams of scientists, to calculate every kind of stuff from the climate change or black holes, or finding water or water molecule on a crater on the moon or on Mars. So this is really you can really touch the stuff that the scientists are working with, and I found that very, very cool.
Man, what a time to be alive. Like for there to be rovers on Mars and having access to all their data, and yet most of us still don't care. It's almost kind of sad, right?
Well, or too busy. Too busy to care.
Yeah. But I find time for some pretty questionable things. Like refreshing on election results. So
Well, you're refreshing the election result. I found that kind of video when I'm looking those videos. So this is kind of the same thing.
But yeah, I know we've got a hard stop right at 5:30 here, so I'll call it today. But thanks so much again, Nicole and Ben, for coming on. This
Thank
was
you.
Yeah,
Thank you, Nicole. Thank you, Zan.
I'll see y'all. We'll have Yuri on tomorrow. So.
Oh, cool. Awesome.